Hello everyone, welcome on in. It's Betting Weekly Dojo. It's episode 7. I'd like to say joining me, it looks a little bit more happy than it did last week. It's our professional gambler, Neil Channing. Looks like you're back to your normal self, mate. How are you?
Total poker face. You'll never tell whether I'll never give anything away. I had no clues as to whether I had a winning weekend or a losing weekend after last week's debacle.
You've actually just reminded me of a funny story that I've got to tell.
Okay,
and that was what you just said there. I'm going to come on to it in a minute, but you've just actually gone straight in with that thing there. And that is absolutely reminding me of a very funny story. Anyway, I can tell by already the first, minute and a half here, I can tell it's been a better week. You had a good day yesterday in the NFL. Was a little bit better for you?
I had a very good day, but that Sunday, the week before last, was so bad that even though I had a brilliant day yesterday, I haven't won it all back. Well, I was just thinking, how funny it is that if you win a lot of money and then you lose it back, but you still end up winning, you can be really gloomy. If you lose a lot of money and then you win most of it back and you still end up losing, you can be absolutely buzzing. And I'm absolutely buzzing, even though over the 8 days, I'm still reasonably behind. That's kind of that's funny, isn't it? Psychology.
It is, and it's so true as well. I mean, I come on to you last week, and we've put the show back a little bit today because I was watching a tie break on the tennis, and this just shows you how variance changes from last week to this week. I was been moaning about how many tie breaks never went my way. People had 3 match points and not going over the line. This week, everything's gone my way.
You love a tie break.
Yeah. I love it. I don't. I like a 6-1 or 6-2. I don't really like a tie break. But I just went through a tie break there where my man had 6 match points, Artur Fees, up against Holger Rune, and he got the job done finally. Last week, that wouldn't have happened for me.
It's definitely true. It feels like everything's changed. I don't know.
Everything's changed.
We're still quite early on in this NFL season, so you can still be optimistic. One good week, it's very easy to feel like I've totally cracked it. The whole game's going to go well now.
Before we go on to the running order, I have to tell you this story because it won't seem relevant as we go into the end. It was when you come on the show and you said you were celebrating there. You were celebrating there and everything like that. This is quite a good story. I used to have an office in London where I used to get people to ring me up and they used to place bets, and I used to put the bets on for them and take a percentage to place the bets on for me. And I had this one certain guy who always used to call up and he used to say, "Give me 4 on it, or get me 3 on it, or get me 2 on it," and it was 2,000 rather than 200. But he was saying it in front of his wife. He didn't want his wife to hear what he had. And one day we were at Chester Racecourse. My friend, who was my business partner, and myself were at Chester Racecourse, and there was a horse. You'll know the horse. It was called Harbinger.
I do remember that horse.
And it tragically got injured and it lost its life, I think, the horse. But it was a Group 1 winner, I think. A brilliant horse. And it ran in this race at Chester, and it was 4-9, so it was odds-on favourite, 4-9. And so that in American terms is minus 225. So this guy rang up and he asked me, he said to me, going down, and he said to me, "Can you get me 9 on it? Can you get me 9 on it? Can you get me 9 on it?" So I went, "Yeah, sure." So I called the bookmaker and I called in £9,000 on this horse. Rang the guy back, said, "You've got £9,000 on the horse." He turned around and said, No, I wanted 900. Now they're off. They're literally behind the stores. So me and my friend have had 8,100 on this horse. He's got 900. We've got 8,000. I know it's an odds-on shop, but we've got 8,000. We wouldn't bet 8,100. I wouldn't bet it now. Wouldn't bet that size then. So we've got 8,100. So my mate's petrified, and I said, "Listen, what's happened?" I said, "There's people in this box. They've been very grateful to us. If this horse loses, we go in there and we don't show any emotion and we show nothing on the day, and we basically, nothing has ever happened. And if the horse wins, we don't go in there and tell the story." The horse won by about 8 lengths. We went in, we told everyone the story. We were in the champagne bar. We were telling everyone this story. We're in the champagne. If it had lost, we would have been the most miserable buggers to be around for that restaurant. We would have gone home. But poker face is never very different. It just reminded me of the story as soon as you come on. We had £8,100 we had on, so about $10,000 we had on this horse. And we had no interest in it, and it was by pure fluke, and it won. Anyway, talking about being on fire, the team on the Betting Weekly Studios have been an absolute sensational form this week.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all, Nigel.
Well, I even won. Does that surprise you?
Well, a little bit.
The Soccer Boys have won 10 units over the weekend. Sean Calvert has had one of his best days of the year last week. So if anyone's been following the tips here on the Betting Weekly Studios, you would have been in great form and you would have been great, much more money than you did last week. The guys have really, really hitting off. And this week we've got so many things to look forward to. The Champions League is back. The Premier League is back as well. And lots of soccer action as well as tennis action with the 1000 event over in China. So that's my little bit there. What have they got to do, Neil? They've got to subscribe, but we don't like this word. I think, was it you or a viewer come up with a new word for subscribers?
I liked it. One of the viewers said, because we were worried that when you're watching on YouTube, there's a little thing to press subscribe. And it sounds like you have to pay for it, doesn't it? It's a terrible selling thing from YouTube because it makes it sound like you have to put your credit card in and it comes out every month. Whereas all you have to do is simply press that button that says subscribe. And I don't know, it makes the algorithm work in our favour, apparently. More people get to see the show. Everybody's happy. But anyway, we're going to not call it subscribe anymore. They're going to be called Dojoiners.
That's it. I like that. The Dojoiners. Do join us by pressing the subscribe button to become one of the Dojoiners. So it's
that's what we like.
Another way of saying subscribe. We don't like that word subscribe here. We like we like comment, we like do join us. So basically, do join us. Come on into the dojo, hit that button. We got
a lot more likes last week, and I think normally it's like 1 in 10 likes for every viewer is about 10% to like. But we beat the 10%. We should beat the 20% this week. Come on, press like.
Yep. I think it was our most liked show of the year.
Everybody liked the fact that I'd done my brain.
Yeah, I double liked it. I hit the like button 4 times. I hit the like button 4 times. It was brilliant. A lot of people like that. So that's what you're going to do. You want to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, give us a comment, give us some questions. We're going to go through some viewers' questions at the end of the show, subscribers' questions, or do join us questions on the end of the show here. So if you've got any question for myself or Neil, give us a question on there. We're going to cover some topics now. One of the topics that's come up quite a lot on the questions we've been asked, and something that's really important is when you miss a line. So if you're playing American football and the line is big moves and big lines on numbers, 3.5 or the 2.5 numbers or 6.5 or 7.5, these big numbers here. If the line moves and you really like the side, what is your strategy on how you do it when there's line movements? What are your thought process on that kind of thing?
On a game like that, where it's a handicap, we missed the 2.5, now it's 3. I'm definitely one that, unless there's a reason that the line has moved, which is a reason in terms of team news or whatever, I would not kind of follow the move. If the move has come, sorry, I get that. I say that the other way around. If the move has come purely because of money, a 2.5 has hardened up and become a 3, and now you're backing the 3. Maybe it's sort of late on a Sunday, and public money is flooding in for the team. Those are bad ones to chase. If the move is early in the week, and it's probably come for a reason, a syndicate is on or whatever, I think you can be a bit more forgiving. But I think with those kind of things, you can shop hard. You can usually find a book somewhere that has a slight off number. So if somebody's 2.5, if everybody's 2.5, the general market's 2.5, it moves to 3. I'm going to find a 2.5 somewhere. I might want to buy the 0.5 point as well. I might want to take worse than 10 to 11 to get the -2.5 because 3 is such a key number. So in those situations, I'm not really an advocate of just ploughing on in and saying, well, it was 7 and now it's 7.5. I'm still gonna back it -7.5. I tend to shy away, shop around and hope that I can still find a 7 out there or something like that. But really, the reason I brought this subject up this week with you, Nigel, was because somebody asked me, because I'm playing a lot of player props. So if I take some receiver or another and his number of reception yards is, I don't know, maybe 78.5, so we can go under or over 78.5, $1.10 each way. What do we want to do, over or under? And I'm betting quite a lot of overs. So as the week goes on, if you got a popular receiver, the most likely target for a big side who are favourites, possibly in a high total game, well, the most likely thing as the week progresses, as soon as the prices go up, people are going to pile into the over on that guy. And if he opens up 78.5, he could soon be 83.5, 84.5, 85.5. Now, occasionally you can't get on the 78.5. Maybe it's only there in small size, or it's with a book that you don't play with, or whatever. And suddenly you're faced with this thing, it's 82.5. I wanted 78.5, and you're sort of like, well, it's only 4 yards. A lot of the time it's not going to matter. Which is true, on the when we were talking about the handicaps, moving from 2.5 to 3 is going to matter a lot, very often. But 78.5 to 81.5, not really going to make that much difference. Not many times during the season it's going to cost you. But of course, this is your edge in the long run. These tiny little percentages add up over the year. So this guy said to me, well, in that situation, why don't we just bet the guy to score a touchdown any time? We think he's going to do well. Say somebody who's on about 80 or something like that yards, probably be about even money to score a touchdown any time. And if the even money touchdown any time hasn't moved at all, but the yards have gone up by 4 or 5 yards, well, perhaps we should take advantage of that sort of slight market inefficiency and just bet him to score any time. And I actually like this. I think this is a good idea. The downside of it is that you can say, well, with the under-over yardage, you've got a clear idea of what the correct market price should be, because it's a two-way market. There's plenty of liquidity. If the bookies open 79.5 and the money's all on the over, and now it goes 84.5, they're going to get some under money, and it's going to level up, and people are going to be backing both sides at 10 to 11. Maybe you'll see it goes $1.15 one way and $1.05 the other way, as they try and level up the action. With the anytime TD, there isn't normally a market for not to score. It's just, will this guy score a touchdown any time? And it's, generally speaking, with most books, you can only bet the yes. So you don't really know exactly what the correct price should be, which is a good and a bad thing, because it means that the bookies probably have a higher hold on it. They've got a bigger vig. But on the other side, they don't really know what the true price should be, because they're not seeing two-way action. So I actually think in that situation, a lot of these anytimes are quite poorly priced. And I think the bookies just tend to think that it's recreational punters betting on them. And they don't really monitor too much and move their prices around. They're also quite competitive. A lot of firms will be trying to outdo each other to make sure they're the best price about a bunch of the players, because they know that it's a way of getting recreationals into their book. And they might see, the same game parlays are all based on this stuff, and they want to be attractive on those prices. So I think in that situation, whoever it was that said to me, should we just switch to any time when the line's running away with us on an over, on a receiver or a running back or whatever, I like it. I like that idea. I think it's good.
Well, I've never bet these props, and I don't. I'm pretty loath to bet some of the markets that players to have shots on target, players to have tackles, all this kind of stuff. I know it's a growing market and it's there for that same guy parlay or the bet builders. But for me, I'm a bit old school in that kind of approach. So and the line moves so quickly. So for us here on Betting Weekly Studios to put those bets up, I don't think it gives us any credibility as professional bettors to put a bet up on something that we're going to record it on a Thursday that's plus 110 that starts at minus $2. Well, I don't think that does the channel any good.
I think you're definitely right on those soccer ones, especially with the kind of number of passes or assists or stuff like that. First of all, I think in the UK they're dependent on Opta, who are a perfectly reasonable company and independent of the bookmakers to do the grading and decide whether it's a winner or a loser or who did the tackle or whatever. In America, I think it works better with the NFL, because NFL.com is such a good site and everybody just relies on, the box score, and it's an official result. Everything is really easy to measure because it's a stop-start game. And, even though they have the old-fashioned chain gang to measure the yardage, it's still pretty easy to say with 100% confidence, that guy finished on 79 yards over the afternoon, and it's not. There won't be an argument afterwards with people saying no, it should have been 81. Whereas in soccer, there are, you do get quite a lot of these arguments, and it's not very good. So I think those ones are all right. I also think there's more liquidity just in the, in the over under for a running back or a receiver or a quarterback. There's quite a lot of liquidity in it, so the prices are a bit more solid. I mean, they do move about, but they're not absolutely all over the place,
Well, I mean, my way of thinking on this market is that if the yards obviously moves up 6, or shots on target for players go from plus 110 to minus 260, if the price on those to score at any time or to get a touchdown do not move, then it's a rig.
Yeah,
they have to move, and they have to move.
Absolutely. But I think the books are a little bit lazy about that to an extent. On a similar one, somebody said to me, I put up a couple of weeks ago, I gave you a loser, I think. I said I was backing Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown any time. He was going to be like, it was on a different show, but he was going to be like minus 150. And someone said to me, I don't want to bet those short odds. I don't like to bet the short odds on the any time. I like to get the plus money. So why don't you just back him to score the first touchdown? And I guess if someone's about minus 150, they're normally about a 4-1 chance, plus 400 to score the first touchdown. So, obviously it's a lot more attractive, but of course it's harder to get the first touchdown scorer. I mean, my thoughts on that are basically that it's just more volatility, isn't it? It depends how much you love volatility. If you clearly the two things are very related, and the price is, as you said before, they should move in tandem. If one gets backed, the other one should get backed as well, because they're essentially the same thing. If you think he's going to do well on the afternoon, and his chance of scoring any time comes down in price, and his yardage goes up on the handicap, then his chance of scoring the first touchdown should come down in price. But that doesn't always happen. And secondly, obviously, with the first touchdown, you've got a slight element of like how you think the game might play out. If you're playing a running back, you've got to ask yourself, well, do I think that the team are going to run the ball early, or is the reason why his anytime price is short because we're expecting them to go ahead and stick it up the jumper and run on every down in the second half to try and burn out the clock? So there's different things to think about in it, but I don't mind the idea of switching between the markets. I think, obviously in terms of liquidity, if you're playing with just one book and you're looking around and thinking, well, I can't really get the best price on over the yards, but they have a good price on anytime TD, and I don't really have any other outs, well, then you could probably switch to anytime TD. I don't mind any of that at all. I think you've got to be quite, flexible on this stuff.
I think the anytime goal scorers and anytime touchdown scorers are a great value. Try scorers in rugby over here as well. I like them because they're so prolific now. And I just think there's value in them. I mean, Dominic.
Well, the other thing that's interesting, because Sunday afternoons on NFL are so busy and there's so many markets and stuff's happening all the time. If the total in the game moves a lot, I don't see the firms suddenly changing all their prices on the anytime. But if a total, we're coming into that kind of season, and obviously there's been some sad stuff happening in America in terms of weather in the last week, but. We are going to get into that season of NFL where games are very windy, there's snow around, and the totals are going to move around quite a lot on that basis. I don't see the firms being as quick to move those prices on any time. Obviously, in that situation where the total's coming down because of bad weather, you want to avoid betting too many people to score any time in those matches, and if the total's being bet up, you sort of half fancy somebody as an any time, I should get on quickly.
Just one thing before we can leave this subject here about sort of any time sort of touchdown scorers or any time goal scorers in soccer. Why is it? I've always asked this question. I started working in the industry in 1990, and I could never understand why to score the last touchdown or to score the last goal was never popular. Why was it always the first goal? Because if a goal goes in after a touchdown goes in after 2 minutes, your wager's down. But if you bet someone to score the last goal scorer, you've got
an interest for the whole game.
For the whole game. I never understood why to score the first touchdown or to score the first goal.
I don't know.
Never,
You're right.
I suppose people just think, well, the player might get substituted or it might be. But,
I don't know.
I just thought it was
I don't know the answer. It's just, you're right. It's a bit weird, isn't it? I actually had a couple of last touchdown bets yesterday. But I don't know. I suppose there's a bit of a buzz, isn't there? If the game starts and you're automatically feeling like you're in action with the first touchdown, you know, it's that first drive. There's normally a score inside 8 minutes. It might be a field goal, but there was a lot more touchdowns like last night, whereas in previous weeks there'd been a lot of field goals. But I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Before we leave the NFL to one side, anyone who's caught your eye in the first few weeks of the season?
No, I haven't had a bet at all on the outright Super Bowl or anything. I had a bet Philly to win the NFC at the start of the season, but I haven't got too stuck in on the long term. The other thing I'd quickly say on those yardage ones though, and somebody said to me about that. I mean, it's amazing, really, isn't it, that we're still in this world? But it's the advice is the same as it was 20 years ago. If you're betting over somebody's yardage, you've got to do it early in the week as soon as you see the prices, because it can only go up, really. And if you're betting under, you should just wait until late on Sunday, because, generally speaking, most people like to bet over on these things because they want to bet for action to happen. They want to cheer somebody on. They want fun. Nobody wants to say, my best bet of the day is hoping that this guy has a terrible game.
Well, I mean, that's the view when you bet early to bet close to the event. I mean, there's pros and cons for both. I mean, there's a soccer team that I like at the moment who are currently minus 110. And I believe that they will be on Saturday close to minus 60, minus 160. So do I take...
I just want to click on to... okay. Which division is this?
Scottish Premier.
Oh, right, okay.
Aberdeen this weekend to beat Hearts. Okay. Hearts have got to travel 4,000 miles in the Europa League on the Thursday, and Aberdeen are 6-0. Hearts haven't won. They're minus 110.
Aberdeen, but they're playing on Sunday.
Sunday, yeah. That
they're
price
like $1.25 at the moment, Aberdeen.
But it's moving. They were minus 110 this morning. That'll be minus 150, minus 160, easy. My argument is this. There. So what do we do? Do we?
Well, it depends how big you're betting, doesn't it? If you want to have thousands on, you can't have thousands on.
500. Say I wanted £500, English pounds, or $700.
You've got a shot, haven't you? I mean, even then, there's not many people taking 500 a pot on a Monday on next week's Scottish.
It highlights your account up straight away.
Yeah.
I think you're suddenly under pressure to lose the account if it's a good account. I think the liquidity on and you basically you give everyone the clue that they're going to be bet.
Yeah.
So
the good news is that they have self-service betting terminals in high street shops in the UK.
Well, that will involve a lot more hard. That will not happen in where I. Well, no one's going to be taking that bet off me. But no, seriously, this is logic. I mean, Will White, who comes on the show, is a professional gambler, very, very successful soccer bettor. He will do all his business right at the last minute when there's liquidity in the market. On the Saturday, 2 hours before kickoff, he does a lot.
But if you're playing bigger, you've got no choice. And so you might as well wait until really late, because you can have the team news as well. If you're playing, if you want to have a 5-figure bet as your average bet on a soccer match, then you're not going to get much on before Saturday anyway. So you might as well wait until the last half an hour and have the team news. But I don't know. I knew some guys that were doing very well on this kind of thing, and they were going around having parlays on games like that early in the week. And in a situation like that with Aberdeen, they'd have like 5 teams that they liked, and they'd just put Aberdeen in every one. And it might look like fairly recreational business. They wouldn't have to lay out fortunes, and they'd make sure Aberdeen featured in plenty of the bets.
We've spoken about parlays before when I knew I knew the result of the match. I just couldn't get it right, so it's going to be very hard for me to try to find that one. One of the conversations we've spoken about in one of the previous shows, I think it was not last week, the week before, about Palpable. and the ruling about Palpable in this country and people saying, hiding behind that word. One of our viewers has got in contact with, he emailed you, we got in contact with you from South Africa. I know we have people, believe it or not, channels, we've got people from all, you should see the nations that watch the show. It's incredible,
it's
amazing.
A funny old game.
We had a guy from South Africa who emailed you and said that how the South African bookmakers deal with palpable errors. And I think it was quite fascinating.
Yeah, apparently in South Africa, they're pretty hot on it. They don't really pay you on anything. If they think it's you've taken advantage of an error, pretty much immediately the bet is cancelled and you might lose your account. But what they do is that they encourage customers to point out errors. So if you contact a bookie in South Africa and say, we've seen an error, you've put the two teams round the wrong way on your coupon, and you've got the handicap plus 3.5 instead of -3.5 or whatever it is, you get a free bet immediately for telling them.
How big's the free bet?
Well, I don't know really, but
if it's $10, it's not worth ringing it. $200, it's worth ringing them, isn't it?
Well, I suppose if you know that all the bookmakers in the country have this policy of just voiding the bets immediately and closing your account, you're not going to be able to benefit from it anyway, so you might as well tell them and get the free bet.
That's a good way of dealing with it. I like that. I do like that, actually. I think it's quite a good thing. What do you think?
Well, it's a bit different, isn't it? I mean, I quite like it. It's not the worst idea in the world. I noticed in the comments though that we had after that show, a lot of the American viewers that were commenting on YouTube were like, "This would not work in our country." You know, in America, if someone makes a mistake, you know, that's it. Drill them to the floor. But I did see one or two. Like there was a guy in the comments. I can't remember the exact details, but I think he said that there was some kind of golf tournament where they were putting up every single player to get a birdie at 33-1 on the next hole, and they were doing that on every hole, and it should have been 3-1 or something like that. And he was having £100 on every single player to get a birdie. Well, I mean, obviously that's wrong, and obviously he knows it's completely wrong. I don't think you can be upset when they turn around and say, look, we've made a mistake there. We're not going to pay you out.
Well, that's an obvious palpable error, isn't it? That is an obvious mistake. But some of these things they hide behind. And, you know, there's a lot of people who watch this show who turn around and say they have no sympathy for bookmakers whatsoever. One of them is actually sitting behind the scenes here watching this.
If a bookmaker in America, where I think it was New Jersey, where they had that issue with the one guy having the sort of 20-team parlays of where the handicap was wrong. If he'd have won like 30 million or something, does that matter? Do you still have to pay out on that? I don't know. I mean, it just seems a bit crazy that there's no, a multi-billion-pound company could be, literally could be bankrupted by it. I mean, just by a member of staff not, having a fat finger or possibly being corrupt. I think
the South African way's the right way, actually, to be fair. I think if there's an error, avoid the error. And if you're the person who tells me, you get a free bet. As long as it's a substantial free bet, I'll be making the call. If it's a $10 free bet, I'll be like, well, no bother. But I think it depends on the offer of the free bet, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, we've got lots and lots of questions for us, Janice. And, we haven't really read a lot of questions from people, but there's so many questions. If you do have a question for Neil or myself on the show, we're going to have a little question, a segment. It's going to be called the Dojoin Us question. So do join us. But before we go on to the question, it's not a question, but a lot of people have mentioned it to me last week when we were talking about our disappointing run. And a lot of them was all about cash out. Lots of people said, if you cashed out, why didn't you cash out? 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 Well, to my answer to that cash out,
it wouldn't have helped me last week. I lost a lot of even money chances where, I just put my money down. They were never winning and I lost. So, how can I cash out if I bet somebody to score and they don't score? I mean,
that's the market's over. You can't get it. But I think they were more talking about when I was talking about
the bad beats.
The bad beats who have been leading and then they had like 4 set points. The majority of the bets I have, I would say 95% of the bets I have are actually with other individuals rather than a sports book who helps me get on or someone who can use an account to get on, because I can't bet, so I don't have the cash out option. Secondly, I choose very, very much not to get too engrossed in the match. That's my decision. I don't want to sit and go through 3 hours of a tennis match in the agony. I mean, like I say, when I first met you, Neil, I doubled the length of the hair that you had. Now look at me. So I don't want that stress. So that's another point about it. And the third thing about it with cash out is the margin that bookmakers take. Yeah. I feel is a little bit too much for me. But if you've got a great parlay and you've got a brilliant opportunity to cash out, and it's something that you want the money or you need the money, I would cash out. But for me tricky, personally, it's a tricky one. But I would definitely.
Basically, I think you've said it exactly right. The margin that they charge you for cash out is clearly in favour of the bookmaker. I mean, they wouldn't have spent all this money developing this quite complicated thing that they have to keep an eye on and get right if it wasn't in their favour. So yeah, I mean, it's like insurance in blackjack. Generally you don't want to take it. And well, any insurance. I mean, I personally, I never buy insurance unless it's legally compulsory. And even then, I don't really like the idea of it. I never have like holiday insurance or anything like that. So it's I mean, it's always a bad bet, insurance. But if you get to a situation where you've had a 20-team parlay or something, and the 20th one is going off the next day, and you've got 19 in the bin, and this is going to be a life-changing sum, and you've got one game to go, and it's all or nothing, this might be a situation that you never have again in your whole life. Now, if you're saying to me, well, you've got to take 10%, the worst of it, to get the cash out, but you can lock up enough to pay for your kid's college or, pay for a new kidney or whatever else people spend their money on in America. I would, I'll definitely consider it, even though I know I'm being kind of stung by the bookie, because the cash out is expensive. I don't want to, if this is only going to happen once in my life and it's going to be a 6-figure sum or a 7-figure sum or whatever, huge amount. Yeah, I would. That's the situation where I'd take the cash out. But the idea of, I've got a chance of winning, 20-1 chance or something, and it looks like it's 1.1 to win, and then it loses. Well, that's just gambling. It happens all the time.
I think this week you see a change. The points that didn't go for me last week have gone for me this week. So if I cashed out on all the matches, I probably would have been worse off than I did by the last week in the winning week. But there was one time I did cash out, Neil, and it actually popped up on my Facebook page, and it come up. You get your memories on your Facebook page. The memories come through, and it was about 9 years ago. And I'll put a tweet out if anyone wants to see the tweet. But it's I used to go to a soccer match I still do now. I go a lot of soccer matches, and I go with my son. So me and my son are going to Arsenal this weekend, and then we're going to see England play away in Finland in a couple of weeks' time. So we do it. Ever since he was 5 or 6, we go to a football match. So part of the ritual was we would go and get a breakfast, and he would pick 7 teams, and I'll pick 7 teams. Some weeks it was 5, some weeks it was 6, and we do a parlay. And this one particular day, he was only about 8, and he picked 5. He said, "Dad, they'll win. And it was part of the things we did. And I used to put £5, so what's that, $7 on this parlay, and I go in the shop, put the 7 parlay on, and we would bet it. And we went off to the football, and we came back. We had 14 teams, and 13 of them had won. Ooh. And the only team that we needed to win was on the Sunday, and it was West Brom.
Well, this is perfect, though, isn't it? When you've got a whole day to think about it.
Well, at the time, I think it was about $5,000, the winning ticket for $7, and I needed the money, so I cashed out, took the money. I think I got offered £2,500, $8. So I took the money, and I remember, because this coincides with this day. So I said to my son, I said, "Listen, you can have anything you want. Anything you want, you can have." And he said, "Dad, I would like the latest FIFA 19 or whatever. It was about 40 quid. So I went, yeah, perfect. You've got that. What a result." Excellent. He got FIFA 14. I've got $4,000 or $3,000, whatever it was. But I cashed out in that situation because that money was life changing for me at the time.
Well,
had
I
a
think
young
that's
family,
fine. I think
and
that's
it was
fine.
perfect.
I don't have a problem with
But
that.
West Brom won 2-0. West Brom won 2-0.
Well, once you've cashed out, it's best to try not to find out, what would have happened. It's impossible to not look at that. Though.
Well, it's very difficult if it's live on the television and it's in the English Premier League. But anyway, we cashed out on that occasion. That's one of the questions a lot of people have asked in cash out. I do think that it all determines on your circumstance. I do think it determines whether I
would avoid it generally if you can. Yeah.
But if you've got a parlay like that, take it.
Well, it's a bit different, maybe.
Yeah, take it. I've got a couple of questions for you, Neil. And one, Tom Williams is making up. I think it's the second person who's asked this, asking about a certain poker program many years ago where you were on with the mind reader, Darren Brown. Can you divulge in this, please?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So, I do remember this. I don't remember how long ago it was. I don't. If everyone, hopefully, everyone's familiar with Darren Brown. I mean, is he famous in America? Do we need to explain who he is?
Well, he's
less famous in the UK than he used to be.
He's a hypnotist and a mind reader, isn't he?
Yeah, he does. He was
all
like a
crazy...
big deal on TV. He used to have these big TV shows. He played. He sort of played Russian roulette live on TV, didn't he? I don't think he really did. I don't know quite what was going on there, but it was like a 2-hour program, and then at the end, he shot a gun into his head. I mean, this sort of stuff.
That was his last ever program, that was his last ever program. Yeah,
he's not on TV as much.
Don't do this. Don't do this at home, kids. Please do not do this at home, kids.
But he, anyway, he had a popular television program. He was very famous, and I got a phone call from somebody once to ask me, we understand that you're kind of, big in poker, and we're making a TV show for Channel 4. And would you like to be involved in the making of this program? So I said, well, I don't know, what's it? Give me a bit more detail. Well, anyway, the guy that called me about it, he said, well, to be honest, he said, I don't think I'm supposed to tell you, but he said, I don't really know exactly what it is, but I know that the person that called me works for the Darren Brown show. Well, Darren Brown was like super cool at the time, and it was a big program, and everyone was always talking about it in these big stunts that he was doing. So I was quite curious, and I contacted the lady and said that I was interested. And she said, well, what we need is we need to get 5 professional poker players to come into London and play a tournament. And we've got a venue, and we need to sort that out, and can you help me at all with it? So I said, well, I know somebody that can, be the dealer and bring the equipment and everything. And brilliant, she said, because I don't know anything about any of that. And I said, well, if you want, I know loads of professional poker players. I could just call a few. What's in it for them? They've all been on TV before. They're not that bothered about being on TV. What's the program anyway? She said, well, I can't really talk about what the program is, but they'll be playing a little tournament against each other, and the winner will get, I can't remember how much it was now. It might have been £2,000. It was about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. So I thought, well, it's not that much. I said, well, how long will it take, all the filming and stuff? And she said, well, I don't know. How long does a poker tournament take? So I said, well, I reckon we could probably make it an hour if that's all right. She said, perfect, that'll be perfect. Won't keep you more than 2 hours then doing the filming and stuff. 1 o'clock on Saturday. So I said, well, leave it to me. I'll try and get you the people. So anyway, I rang up 5 mates of mine, and I think there was 5 of us actually. So I had to ring up 4 people. And I said, well, the winner's getting £2,000. So why don't we just agree now that we'll just take 400 quid each, and as our fee for going, it'll take 2 hours, and we don't really care who wins then. Anyway, so we turn up, and there's this old lady there. She's about, I don't know, in her 70s, and she's going to be playing in the game. She's going to be the 6th player. So we haven't had time to discuss with her about the £2,000 and then how can we split it 6 ways. So we've had a little conflab, the 5 of us, and we've said, well, we've never seen this woman before. She's obviously not like a top professional poker player. surely one of us will win against her, and we'll be able to chop up the money. But obviously, if she wins, we'll have come and done this thing for no wages. It'll be an absolute disaster. Anyway, she starts playing, and we sat down, and she don't seem to understand the game. She's like looks at her cards in a funny way. She doesn't know whether to say raise or call, or she's absolutely clueless. But suddenly she's knocked out the first person, and then somebody tries to steal her blind, and she goes all in. She went to fold, and then she changed her mind and she went all in, and they had to fold. And anyway, eventually her and my mate Jeff are the last two. And, so it's looking an absolute disaster for the boys. We thought we'd have 400 each. Now we've got to trust Jeff to see if he can duff up this old lady.
On the poker table.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, they get into a situation. I can't remember the exact hands, but I think one of them had ace queen, the other one had a pair of nines. And I think he's decided not to play big hands before the flop for some reason. So the flop's come down, and he's gone all in. I think it was possibly he had ace. He might have had ace 10, I think, and it came like king queen, and he's gone all in. And she's immediately called with a pair of nines, which is it's quite a bold call when there's a king and a queen there. But it turns out to be a correct call that she's winning. She has an edge here. She should win. She's now around about 75% to win the hand. And he hits an ace, and he wins, and we get our 400 quid, and we all go off. And then I've called up to just double check something afterwards, I think, and speak to the lady and just make sure everything was all right. And they've answered the phone. Oh, hello, Darren Brown show here. So now it's been completely shocked. But we never saw Darren Brown on the whole day.
But what was the purpose of it?
Well, when we watched it back, we obviously realised what they were doing. The whole programme was supposed to be, we can teach this old lady to play poker just by mental strength. We'll get an expert to stand off screen and to kind of telepathically tell her what to do. I think that was the point of it anyway. But my friend Jeff had definitely worked it out, because you had to put your cards down so that the camera could see them as soon as you got dealt your hand, and he kept on putting his like covering his up slightly so you couldn't see it properly, and he reckons that's how come he got to the last two, because somebody must have been telling her into her earpiece, yeah, you've got to go all in now because this guy has a bad hand. Because she looked several times like she was going to do one thing and then she changed her mind and did the other. So I think that the magic, in inverted commas, was done by a secret earpiece. Yeah. But we'll never know, and nobody at Darren Brown ever told me. But I do know we got our 400 quid each, and we were done within 90 minutes, and we were all absolutely delighted. And the lady, they were going to give her, if she won, they were going to give her a holiday to Portugal, I think. And she started crying because she lost her holiday on the programme. So they gave it to her anyway. It's quite. I think you can get it on YouTube. It's quite touching, really. The whole thing. You're
cheaper than Darren Brown than it cost me on the dojo.
I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? 400 quid. In retrospect, we should have asked for a lot more. It's Channel 4. They probably had a budget coming out of their ear rolls.
Exactly. I don't think we've got more time.
We cashed out.
You got lucky. You cashed out. But mate, I would have smelling a rat there. I'm telling you what, when you saw the old lady winning all the hands, I would have known straight away. So you would have been a little bit careful there. But check that out on YouTube. Darren Brown with Neil Channing and his poker friends as well. Lots of other content as well on the YouTube involving the Betting Weekly studios, which you can get here. And what are you got to do, Neil? What are they got to do with these people?
Well, if they want to dojoin us, they should press subscribe. Although it doesn't cost anything to subscribe. It should be called Dojoin, really.
Yep.
Do join us anyway. Do join us. And also press like as well, because, if 3,000 people watch this video, how can only 300 like it? What are the others doing? What are you, some kind of, sadomasochist? You're watching it even though you hate it?
There's a few of them on here. Trust me on that. But make sure you give us a like. Make sure you give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Lots of content coming your way, not only on the dojo, but also on the tennis and on the soccer throughout the week as well. The guys are on absolute fire every day, 11 o'clock Eastern time, Betting Weekly Live. And each day, the boys are picking out winners like you wouldn't believe. So make sure you subscribe here. Watch all the talent that's coming your way. Lots of content coming your way. Lots of funny stories with me and Neil as well. It's been a pleasure as always, Neil. Look forward to doing this all again next Monday. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your day on a busy day. And if you've got any questions for us, again, I couldn't get through them today. We'll get through them again next week. So the Do Join Us questions feature will be part of the show going throughout the next few weeks. Thank you very much as always for your time. Enjoy the show and make sure you subscribe and press that Do Join button. Subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Just do it for us. Take care.